My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 35 years old, and on the cold morning of January 9th, 2023, I died in a cave near the Iranian border. I served with the US Navy for over 11 years. SEAL Team 6. That's about as deep into the shadows as you can go. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. Some operations I still can't talk about without risking someone in DC showing up at my door. Back home in Virginia Beach, my wife, Emily, and our twin girls, Sophie and Grace, were just starting their school day. They were 8 then. They believed their dad worked with cybersecurity at the Pentagon. That's what I told them. Some truths just aren't for kids. That morning's mission was supposed to be simple: routine recon. Track a high-value target, gather intel, and get out. But there's no such thing as routine out there, not in that part of the world. I remember glancing at my watch. 03:40 n. We were deep inside a cave system when it hit. The blast came without warning. 1 second, I was moving forward, boots crunching against the rock. The next, I was flying backward. Fire, heat, screaming. My chest caved in like it had been punched by a truck made of steel. I couldn't breathe. Blood filled my mouth. Hot, metallic, bitter. My ears rang. The world sounded like I was underwater. I tried to speak. I couldn't. And then, everything changed. There wasn't a push. There wasn't even a jolt. It was a pull. Like something inside me was being lifted out. Like my soul had been waiting for that exact second to rise. Suddenly, I wasn't in the cave anymore. I was above it, looking down at my own body. Broken, still. My teammates surrounded me, frantic. One was pressing down hard on my chest, another screaming into a radio. But I felt nothing. No fear, no pain, no panic, just peace. A silence so deep, it felt like music. And then everything around me began to fade, until only the light remained. A light that felt like home. That light wasn't like anything I'd ever known. It didn't have a source, no sun, no bulb. It was just there, surrounding me, inside me, warm, gentle, strong. And for the first time in my life, after years of battle, loss, and blood, I felt completely whole. That's when I saw him. He wasn't walking, not exactly. He was just coming toward me, through the light. Each step was silent, but the weight of his presence made the space feel sacred, like the air itself bowed before him. I didn't need an introduction. My heart knew before my mind did. It was Jesus. He wasn't glowing in some cartoonish way. He wasn't floating like you see in paintings. He was real, solid, stronger than steel, but softer than any kindness I'd ever known. His robe shimmered, but not like fabric. It shimmered like it was woven from light itself. And his face looked like every good thing I'd ever longed for. Like every wound I ever carried was seen and understood, just in the way he looked at me. And his eyes, they didn't judge. They didn't measure me. They held me. Every failure, every sin, every scar I tried to hide, he saw it all. And still, his gaze felt like forgiveness wrapped in fire. He said my name. Daniel. And the way he said it, it wasn't a label. It wasn't like Petty Officer Carter. It was deeper. Like he was calling out the part of me I'd buried years ago under war and duty and pain. I tried to speak, but I couldn't. My throat tightened with emotion. Not fear, just awe. He stepped closer and placed a hand on my shoulder. I swear I felt it in every cell, like warmth flowing through every broken place in me. Not just the wounds from the blast, the deeper ones, the ones no surgeon could reach. He said, Your body is failing, Daniel, but your spirit is fully alive. I looked around. There were no harps, no pearly gates, just light, stillness, and him. Is this heaven? I asked. He smiled, not with his mouth alone, but with his whole being. This is where I welcome those who are mine. And yes, this is where you'll see your daughters again one day. But not yet. I wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was wrong, that there was no way I was making it back. My lungs were filled with blood. My team probably already radioed it in. My wife, Emily, was likely getting the worst phone call of her life. I'm not going to make it, I said quietly. He just looked at me, steady and sure, and touched my shoulder again. There's something you need to see first, he said. Something you must carry back. Before I could ask what that meant, the light around us began to shift, like fog being pulled back from a mountain's edge. The field we stood in dissolved, and suddenly we were somewhere else. We were high, so high I couldn't feel wind or cold or even altitude. It wasn't like standing on a mountain or flying in a jet. It was beyond that. The earth was below us, not like a photo, not like a map, but alive, breathing. Oceans pulsed like they were lungs. Cities sparkled. Forests rippled like waves in a sea of green. I felt small, insignificant. And yet, standing next to him, I also felt held. Jesus stood beside me, eyes on the world. Tell me what you see, he said. At first, I saw peace, clouds drifting, coastlines gleaming, city lights blinking like stars. Then, the shadows came into focus. Not clouds, not smoke, something else. They slithered, spread, crawled over borders like oil spilled in water, but heavier, smarter. I squinted. Storms? I asked. Look closer, he said. And when I did, my vision snapped into clarity, like I was looking through a scope. What I saw wasn't weather. It was war. Armies marching, borders erupting, missiles launching from silos. I saw flags, Russia, China, North Korea. And then I saw home. Washington, D.C., New York, Los Angeles. Gone. Just gone. Turned to ash in blinding flashes that silenced everything. My stomach twisted. I turned to him, my voice barely a whisper. Lord, what is this? His voice was quiet, full of sorrow. The world is racing toward a war unlike any it has known, he said, and millions will perish unless they turn back. I couldn't breathe, not because of pain, but because of what I was seeing. I watched Iran block the Strait of Hormuz. I saw Chinese forces flooding into Taiwan, Russian troops pushing deeper into Europe. It wasn't just chaos. It was coordinated, like pieces on a board, moved by something darker. And then I saw the United States, our carriers scrambling, defenses lighting up, people panicking. But it was too late. Everything I'd studied during briefings, every scenario we'd trained for, it was all unfolding at once. A global chain reaction, a storm of fire and fury swallowing everything. I looked at him, my mouth dry, my voice barely there. This is the future? He didn't answer right away. He just looked down at the world, his face heavy with sorrow. The enemy has been preparing for this moment for decades, he said. But this isn't the end. He lifted his hand and pointed toward the earth. Watch. The scenes of war slowed, then faded, and something new began to emerge. Tiny lights, faint at first, barely noticeable. One in a living room in Kansas, another in a small church in South Korea. Then more. In Africa, Brazil, the Middle East. Points of golden light flickering to life like candles in the dark. "What are they?" I asked. He looked at me and smiled, just a little. "These are my people. They are praying." I watched, transfixed, as the lights began to connect, golden threads weaving across continents, oceans, and borders. A web, a living, breathing network of faith. And the more those prayers rose, the more the darkness retreated. Not instantly, not all at once, but the shadows stumbled. They thinned. Even the missiles I'd seen just moments ago, those blinding flashes of doom, faded into nothing where the light was strong. "These are the faithful ones," Jesus said. "They are the only thing standing between the world and destruction. Not armies, not weapons, not politics. Their prayers are holding back the flood." I watched as children knelt by their beds, as elderly men whispered through trembling lips, as entire congregations stood shoulder to shoulder, lifting their voices to heaven. And I knew. This wasn't just spiritual poetry, it was war, real, eternal, and prayer was our only defense. I couldn't take my eyes off it, the golden threads weaving across the globe, growing stronger, pulsing with light. Wherever prayer rose, darkness scattered. Wherever faith stood, the enemy fell back. I watched as spiritual fire burned through what no missile ever could, and I felt it in my chest, a pull I couldn't explain, a knowing that this was the real battlefield. "Lord," I whispered, "what do you want from me?" He turned toward me then, fully. No more distance, no more mystery. His eyes didn't just hold love now, they held purpose, urgency. "You must go back, Daniel," he said. My stomach dropped. I knew what that meant, knew it before he even said the words. "Warn them. Tell them time is short, and tell them their prayers matter more than they will ever know." I wanted to answer, I wanted to be brave, but the truth hit me like a freight train. I didn't want to leave. How could I? In his presence, I felt peace like nothing on earth. No more memories of the men I'd lost, no weight from the things I'd done. I was whole, forgiven, finally, home. "Can't I stay?" I asked, voice cracking. He looked at me the way a father looks at a tired son, not with anger, but with the deepest compassion I've ever seen. "I know you're weary," he said softly. "You've carried burdens no man should, but Emily needs you. Sophie and Grace need their father, and the world needs to hear what you've seen." That was it. That was the blade to the heart. My girls, their smiles, their future, their innocence. And then I saw it again. The darkness, the fire, the cities falling, the silence that would come if no one spoke. If I stayed, it would come. But if I went back, maybe I could stop it. "Will I see you again?" I asked. He smiled gently. "Sooner than you think, but not yet. You have work to do." The field of light began to fade, first the warmth, then the colors. Finally, his face. But even as the vision slipped away, his voice remained. "Remember what I've shown you, and do not be afraid. I am with you, always." The first thing I felt was pain. Crushing, real, agonizing pain. My chest was on fire. My throat burned like I'd swallowed gravel. My ears were ringing again, and I could hear shouting, close, frantic. "He's back! He's breathing! Carter's alive!" Voices I hadn't heard in what felt like days, maybe weeks. Time didn't move the same way where I'd just been. I opened my eyes. Barely. Everything was a blur. Red lights flashing, the thump of helicopter rotors overhead, the sterile scent of antiseptic and sweat. A face leaned over me. Helmet, visor, blood-smeared hands. "Stay with me, Carter," the medic barked, gripping my wrist. His name patch read D. Kelly. 14 minutes, he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. He was gone for 14 minutes. 14 minutes. I'd been dead for 14 minutes. But what I saw, what I experienced, it felt eternal, like I'd stepped out of time itself. And now, I was slammed back into the world, lungs struggling, body shattered, but somehow, alive. They flew me back to base, rushed me through surgery, stabilized me, monitored me like a lab rat. When I was finally conscious enough to speak, I didn't know where to begin. How do you explain to people that Jesus Christ himself pulled you out of your body and showed you the future of a world teetering on the edge of annihilation? I kept quiet at first, figured maybe it was trauma, a hallucination, some desperate trick of the brain as it shut down. But then, the signs started, exactly like he said they would. Headlines, flashpoints, tensions rising in the Pacific, China rattling sabers over Taiwan, Russia testing NATO's limits in Europe, Iran stirring up old fires, cyber attacks on infrastructure, economies cracking, politicians screaming. It was all happening. Piece by piece, the vision was becoming reality. That's when I knew. I couldn't stay silent. I had to speak, even if people thought I was crazy, even if it cost me friends, respect, everything. Because this wasn't about me anymore. It never was. It was about all of us. I started with those closest to me, teammates, friends, pastors. Some listened. Most smiled politely. One said, "This is PTSD talking." Maybe once I'd believe that, but I couldn't shake what I saw. Couldn't forget how Jesus said my name. He told me, "Speak, even when they mock you." So I did. I shared my story, not as a preacher, but as a dad, a husband, a former SEAL who saw what's coming. This isn't about politics or war. It's about surrender. Weapons won't save us, but prayer will. I saw cities burn, but I also saw hope. In moms, night shift nurses, children whispering prayers in the dark. If you're breathing, you're part of this. The lesson. The world is saved not by power, but by prayer. The real war is spiritual. If we want peace, we must turn back, now.